Let's take a look at using Windows tools for restoring data. The first thing to do, even before you have a problem, is to implement solutions that allow you to restore data. So for instance, you will need to enable previous versions and configure regular backups. If you do not implement these procedures ahead of time, you will be unable to recover data when you need it. If you have a file that is corrupt, deleted, or if you want to recover a previous version of a file, the first thing to try is to use the previous versions feature. So for instance, let me go to my computer and I'll look at the E drive. And let's say I want to restore to a previous version of file 1. I can right-click the file, go to its properties, and use the previous versions tab. Notice that the location column shows me where the previous versions are located. I have 2 shadow copies of this file, along with a previous version of this file in a backup. Notice that if I wanted to, I could restore the file from the backup directly here from the file properties. However, when I select a file in a backup, I'm unable to open or copy the file. I can only open or copy from a shadow copy. So for instance, I can select the shadow copy version and open it to see if that is the version of the file that I want to restore. When I'm restoring from a backup, I'll just have to restore the file and then see if it's the file that I want. If I were to restore the file, at that point I have the choice to copy and replace the existing file, to don't copy, which basically means cancel and don't restore the file. Or I can copy or restore the file using a new name. So in this case, I've restored file 1 using the second name. Now that it's restored, I can open it up and work with the file. If I've deleted a file, I can restore that file by going to the parent folder or drive and then viewing the previous versions tab and selecting a version of the folder or the drive. So for instance, I can open the drive and then browse to the file and view the file to see if that's the file that I want. Notice the path shows me that I am viewing a previous version of the drive. And this is different from the path that would show when I'm viewing the drive itself. Once I've opened the previous version of the folder to restore the file, I could simply drag the file to its original location. And when I copy the file, I am actually restoring the file from the previous version. So by using the previous versions tab, I can view and restore previous versions of files and even folders. I can also restore files using the backup utility. If I go to Maintenance and Backup and Restore Center, I can use the Restore Files option to restore files from a backup. I can choose the latest backup or an older backup. When I choose files from an older backup, I'll be shown a list of all the backups that exist on this system, and I can choose the backup that I want to use. In this case, I only have a single backup that I can restore from. Next, I add the files or the folders that I want to restore. So when I click Add Files and go to my computer, I can now browse the backup, and any file I see here exists within the backup. So for instance, I could go to the C drive and browse various folders and files that exist within the backup. Notice, for instance, that I have a C, E, and an F drive within the backup. But if I go to my computer, I also have a G drive that does not show up within the backup. This is because the G drive was not included with the drives that were backed up with this backup. So I can select individual files. I can also select folders. So for instance, let's go and select this test folder to restore. And now you see that the items that will be restored are listed in this box. I could also do a search and then use all or part of a file name or a folder to search for it. So for instance, I could search for all text files that exist within the backup. And then from there, I can select the files that I want to restore and add those to my restore operation. So I've selected the folder and a file for my restore. I'll click Next. And then it wants to know where I want to restore the files to. I can restore them back to the original location, or in this case, let me restore them somewhere else. Let me browse, and let me create a new folder of where to put my restored files. I can restore the files to the original subfolders and create a subfolder for the drive letter. And this is in case I was restoring all files on a specific drive. Okay, with my settings, let's start the restore. Didn't take very long. I wasn't restoring much. Now let's go back to my computer and let's look at where those files were placed. Remember, I told it to put it on the E drive within the restored files folder. And here I have a folder for the C drive. And on the C drive, I restored the test folder along with its contents. I have a folder for the contents of the E drive, and on the E drive, I restored file 2. So that's another way that you can restore individual files. Now let's say that I have a problem with my computer and I just want to restore the entire computer. I have the option here to back up my entire computer, and I've created a complete PC backup. Now, for instance, I want to restore my computer. When I select this option, it warns me that my hard disk will be reformatted and all user data and programs will be erased and replaced. It also tells me that the only way I can actually restore my entire computer is to run Windows Complete PC Restore from the System Recovery Options menu. In other words, I can't start a restore from this location. I need to go to the System Recovery Options menu. To get there, I actually need to reboot to the installation media or reboot and use the recovery partition if it exists on my computer. So let me restart, and I have inserted the installation disk on this computer. And when it restarts, I will reboot from the installation disk instead of rebooting from this Windows installation. So I've booted from the Windows Vista installation disk, and now I start the install. But instead of choosing Install Now, I'll choose Repair Your Computer. I'll select the installation I want to repair, and then I can choose Windows Complete PC Restore. The Complete PC Restore has found my recent Complete PC backup. I can choose Next, select whether I want to format and repartition disks, and then when I click Finish, I'm asked to confirm that I want to perform the restore. And when I choose OK, the restore process will start. So when restoring data, the first step is to enable previous versions and to take regular backups. In this way, I have previous copies of files that I need to restore. Then I can use previous versions or the Windows Backup utility to restore individual files and folders. Use the Complete PC Restore to restore the entire computer, including all drives and all data on those drives that was included in the backups.